Well, India has so far vaccinated over 91 lakh frontline and healthcare workers. However, if you look at these numbers on the chart of the global comparison, this is only 0.65% of our entire population. And at this rate, India is nowhere close to reaching its target of 25 crore vaccinations by July. The Health Ministry has, however, announced that people above the age of 50 will begin to receive the vaccine from next month. All in all, there are about 26 crore people in this category. So how can you register for the COVID-19 vaccine once the registration opens? We'll break down the process for you. You can self-register on the CoWIN website or the CoWIN app. You upload a government photo identity or an Aadhaar authentication via biometrics or an OTP. The beneficiaries will then receive an SMS on your registered mobile number, and a due date and place as well as the time of your vaccination shot will be ascertained in that SMS that you'll receive. Only pre-registered beneficiaries will be allowed to proceed for vaccination. So you can't just show up at a vaccination site and expect to be given the vaccine. The option to report allergic reactions after vaccinations is also there, and a vaccine certificate with a unique QR code as a proof of COVID-19 immunization will also be handed to you after you've received the COVID-19 vaccination. You'll also be notified on what your next date for vaccination is to receive your second shot. However, while we're giving out this information right now, I'd also like to clarify to our viewers that currently the vaccination is not available for the general public, as the first phase of vaccination is still underway in India. The CoWIN app also is not available for download at the moment. So please refrain from downloading any apps with similar names, as these apps could in fact compromise your devices or even your data. Now, joining us to talk a little more about what's going to happen in the next phase of vaccination and where we are currently, we have Dr. Sunila Garg. She is a professor of community medicine at MAMC, member of the Lancet Commission, also a member of the COVID task force in India. We have Dr. Shekhar C. Mandey, needs no introduction. He's the Director General of the CSIR. Thank you both very much for being with us on the broadcast. Dr. Mandey, I want to begin by asking you, what are we to make of the current pace of vaccination in India first, given the fact that if you look at the global data and if you look at the comparison, we have only about over 0.6% of our entire population that's received the vaccine in 33 days.
So what we have to remember is that there are three clear priority groups that government had identified. And the first priority group, of course, was the frontline healthcare workers and doctors and so on and so forth. And in fact, we have reached very large numbers in a very short time. That itself is quite commendable. So ever since the vaccines got formal regulatory approval, the fact that we have reached so many large number of healthcare workers and doctors for their first shot has been very, very commendable. Pretty soon the preparations, I believe, are on for the second priority group, which I believe as soon as the first thing is under control, will start.
All right. Dr. Garg, how does this second phase now play out? There's an important list of do's and don'ts, eligibility criteria that the government's made public. But more importantly, everything really depends on, the CoWIN registration. Can you break it down for our viewers? What does it mean for people above the age of 50 who will be eligible to receive the vaccine from next month?
See, first of all, this is a digital platform which we are using. And this is an extension of eWIN platform, that is Electronic Vaccine Intelligence Network. It has got 4 columns. One, it has got an administrative section. Another is a beneficiary registration, from where the beneficiaries can register themselves. And the third one is the acknowledgement, as you already mentioned, will come to the beneficiaries through the registered mobile, and they can also do the status updation also in case there is any change. And also status updation will be done with regard to the as and when they come for the vaccination, that will be mentioned over there that they have received first dose of vaccine and all that. But the most important part is that the people should be downloading that app. As of now, it is not downloadable. As soon as the announcement comes, they should be able to download the app. So that is another important part of it. And they should also be uploading their photo ID, because as and when, when they reach the vaccination point, their verification will be done. And after that, and their photo IDs will be matched, and then they will be, taken up for vaccination, and rest of the process will remain the same, but it's a large number. We are dealing with 26 crore individuals across the country. So that's where it is important to look at that we are going to look at 50 to 60, more than 60 and all that, and also there will be individuals who are suffering from comorbids. The persons who are suffering from comorbidities will also have to upload a certificate of comorbidities as well.
Well, that's very important information that you've given us, Dr. Garg. Dr. Mandey, I want to also ask you, we've given out that disclaimer to our viewers that the CoWIN platform is currently not active for common citizens. It's only, so far available to healthcare workers, frontline workers. By when will the application be available for common citizens? Will there be a guide on how to use it? Because the health minister has said that starting next month, India will begin inoculating those above the age of 50.
Yes, so what I'm given to understand from our friends is that the moment the priority groups which are there, which have been identified by the government, a substantial amount of the priority groups have been covered under vaccination, then it will become available to a larger population. As Dr. Garg very rightly mentioned, 27 crores is not a small number. And we are just getting over the first priority, which was actually 1 crore. And then the second priority group actually will start very soon. So as soon as all of this happens, people will automatically start getting access when the government decides that it is now ready to vaccinate a much larger number, people even with the priority 3 or the general public later.
Dr. Garg, before we let you go, I have to also ask you that there have been certain technical glitches with the CoWIN platform. We've seen that this has led to delays in Madhya Pradesh as far as the second dose of vaccination is concerned. We also know that even in Maharashtra, there was a lot of miscommunication about the second dose, and all of this was related to technical glitches in CoWIN. Now, when we're planning the second phase of vaccination, you're looking at inoculating 27 crore people who come in this category. Is, the back end of the app going to be able to handle these many registrations as they pour in, or is it going to happen in a staggered manner?
It's a very, very important question. You see, we are in a digital age and we are looking at all the beneficiaries. And ultimately, at the end of the day, you see, as I told you, that we need to look at the complete data, because the vaccine, the app is not only about, the individuals, it is also about the number of doses, it is also about, the cold chain, it is also talking about the supply chain management, and so many modules are there in this. So it is very important to use this platform, and definitely, we are, we have to deal with these glitches, and I'm sure over a period of time, we will be able to standardize and we'll be able to take care of this problem. And what another issue was being discussed also was that maybe we will use the electoral lists as well. So that means, like we have, for every district, there's an electoral list. So that will be uploaded, and people can, when the app is downloadable, they can see their names, and they can, if their name is not there, then they can go forward. So that will take care of a lot of problems, because 70% and above, more than that, they have already got their names in the electoral platform. Only the challenge will be that some of the people, they vote at different places. They are working in Delhi, but they go and vote in, another state. So that is a challenge. But I'm sure we'll be able to cover more than 70% of the people in this manner.
Well, I think the electoral rolls is very important, because that will also, in a certain sense, address the question of digital divide when it comes to, CoWIN being the basis on which you will be receiving the vaccine. Well, we're going to keep a close watch on the announcement that the government makes. Once again, a disclaimer to our viewers, the CoWIN app is not yet downloadable for common people. So, beware, and only download the app once you have authentic information that the app is in fact available. Thanks so much, Dr. Garg, for joining us. Dr. Mandey, of course, continues to stay on with us as we shift our focus to another very big development. Remember, the South African, Brazilian and UK strains of the coronavirus have been detected in India. Now, while, of course, we've been tracking the spread of the virus on a daily basis, it is equally important to track the evolution of the virus. According to experts, the coronavirus has a tendency to mutate, which means that it can change its nature as it multiplies. Now, this changes the way the virus spreads. It changes how harmful the virus can be, and therefore, it is extremely important to carry out genome sequencing. Now, what is genome sequencing? Well, I'm no expert, but What experts say is that it is the technique to study the genetic information, and the sequencing is key to identifying the new strains of the coronavirus as we've now identified and tracked in India. Now, why is it important? Because it reveals the changing nature of the virus. So, it will tell you if the virus has intensified, it will tell you if the virus is spreading more quickly, if it's causing a more severe disease, and therefore, it will also help authorities to identify hotspots and super spreading areas. Now, genome sequencing in India, well, it is happening. The government has set a target of 5% of all cases from states and union territories should be sent for genome testing. However, till date, as per official data that's available, there are only 5,898 genome sequences that have been conducted, which is approximately 0.05% of the total cases. So, we still need to meet that target. But to talk a little more about genome sequencing and how important it is, of course, Dr. Mandey continues to be with us. Dr. Preeti Kumar, the Vice President of Public Health System Support at the Public Health Foundation of India, is also with us. Thank you very much, Dr. Preeti, for joining us. Let me begin by asking you, can you simplify and break it down for our viewers? You know, we're dealing with so many different complex terminologies these days. What is genome sequencing, very simply put?
Okay, thank you. So, to talk about genome sequencing, the genetic information is like the fingerprint of an individual. So, the genome that constitutes a virus is actually the genetic fingerprint for that virus, and chemically it is made up of these nucleotides, and there is a code. So, it's all carried on like a ladder, let us say a single rung of the ladder, and that you have these nucleotides which form the sequences, and it reads like a code on a computer that you can read, and that sequence determines the structure of the virus. And the entire 30,000 nucleotides that constitute the entire genetic material which is contained in the RNA that we hear about constitutes the structure of the virus, its behavior, its ability to replicate, its ability to infect, and determine how it will interact with the human being and with the population.
All right, and this genome sequencing data is extremely important for, of course, you know, public health policy as well as vaccination. You know, Dr. Mandey, if I can just ask you, India, you know, has set a target of 5% of all cases, you know, should be sent for genome sequencing. We're falling short of that target. How worried are you, given the fact that now mutations have been detected here in India as well?
No, there is no cause for worry as of now. There is a consortium which has been set up across different agencies. There is Department of Biotechnology, ICMR, CSIR, and all together. And the consortium is actually working very rapidly in sequencing genomes. In fact, our own laboratory, CSIR laboratory, Institute of Genomics and Integrative Biology in Delhi, has been involved in sequencing a large number of isolates, and they do it in coordination with NCDC in Delhi. So as of now, the sequencing is going on pretty well. The numbers are picking up. So I don't think there is any cause for worry as far as the sequencing of isolates is concerned.
Right. You know, as far as the data that's been made available, you know, one fact that really stands out is that there are over 7,500 variants that have been identified in the Indian genomes. Dr. Preeti, what does this mean?
Okay, so as the virus replicates, it tends to mutate. So there is always a little tweaking which happens in the genetic code. It's not a perfect translation. And so every time the rapidity of the replication of the virus as it moves into a host and the reaction of the host allows it to mutate, because the nature of the virus is to adapt and its survival. So many variants will happen which are not really important for us, and they die out. Most variants tend to make the virus more vulnerable and they die out. But sometimes many of these mutations occur on the critical areas, the receptor binding domain that we have heard, the spike protein, that actually allows the entry of the virus into a human being and into the cell and improves its replication. Those become more important, and these tend to be rare. But at times, multiple mutations occur in a particular site, right, and that makes the virus much more, let us say, strong, and to attack the human and replicate much better.
So as we understand it, Dr. Mandey, the virus hasn't greatly mutated here in India at the moment. We are detecting now strains of, Brazil, South Africa and the UK, but largely those are people who are coming in from different parts of the world who are carrying those strains. But the Indian strain per se hasn't mutated. Is that correct?
No, so actually, as Dr. Preeti said correctly, so mutations in virus is a natural process and that is taking place all the time. Even as we speak here, virus, people who are affected with the virus, and as the virus multiplies in the individual's body, virus mutates. So mutations in India also have taken place. The fact that we are talking about 3 strains, the B117, the UK strain, what we call, or B1351, what we call as the South African strain, or P1, what we call as the Brazil strain, is that they have accumulated a bit large number of mutations. For example, the B117 or the UK strain has 17 mutations that have taken place in the spike protein at the same time. While what we see in Indian isolates, there are mutations which are taking place, but there are not as many as what we all of a sudden see in a single gene in the virus. So mutations are taking place. That's a natural process and will keep happening irrespective of what we do.
All right. So mutations is a natural process. It's important, of course, to track, like we said, the spread of the virus, but also the evolution or the mutation. And I think what I understand from the both of you is that not every mutation is necessarily more dangerous than the previous one. It could also be harmless. It's fascinating. And of course, we will keep bringing our viewers more information on genome sequencing, because that really is the next big thing as far as, tracking COVID-19 is concerned. We're going to slip into a very short break. Dr. Preeti and Dr. Mandey will continue to be live with us as we talk about a very interesting phenomena. Cases in Mumbai continue to rise, but in Delhi, they continue to dip. Why is that happening? We'll get you some answers on the other side of a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Daily cases have once again crossed the 4,000 mark in the state of Maharashtra. In fact, 4,787 cases reported in the last 24 hours. Mumbai alone has reported 721 cases. Now this, as Delhi has recorded 0 deaths for the second time on Wednesday and 134 new cases. The day before that, Delhi saw just 94 cases, which was the lowest in 9 months. How are we to analyze this discrepancy between what's happening across metros? Dr. Mandey continues to be with us. Dr. Preeti Kumar also with us. Dr. Mandey, how are you looking at these numbers? Why do you think there's such a discrepancy and, different story playing out in Bombay vis-a-vis what's happening in Delhi?
So what happens is that the local geographical conditions, including the crowding of people, whether they subscribe to wearing masks and maintaining distance and all of it actually goes into the number of cases which are either dropping or rising. And we have seen that in different countries as well. In neighboring countries, in one country the cases were rising, in another country the cases were dropping. And it is a reflection of the fact that how public is actually taking care of themselves during the pandemic. And it's a grim reminder that despite vaccination and despite the number dropping so much in India, we must very strictly adhere to COVID appropriate behavior. I mean, that's exactly the numbers what you pointed out just now points to the fact that we should not let our guard down and we should continue to maintain COVID appropriate behavior.
Right. Dr. Preeti, are you at all worried about the situation that's playing out in Maharashtra, particularly Mumbai? And what our team has been reporting is that there are high rises, like a cluster that's emerged in the Chembur area. These are predominantly infections that are rising, in the urban pockets of Mumbai in high-rise buildings. How are we to analyze this?
So when you say worried, we should not be worried, because one thing that one has acquired, the municipal corporation, the doctors, the hospitals, the entire community, is they have risen successfully to the challenge in the earlier wave. So even if there is a spurt in cases, I think we are now way ahead in the curve on the way we can manage the rising cases. That's one big gain that we have. So I think our preparation will be much better. And even in terms of mortality, hospitals have also gained doctors and health workers have a lot of experience now in managing cases, in anticipating the severity of symptoms, in triaging patients early.
Right.
So I think that will really help to keep the severity and the mortality down, even if the cases rise.
Dr. Mandey, do you think that, in pockets, in urban pockets in Mumbai where one is seeing a surge of infections, in certain other areas in Maharashtra also one is seeing a surge in infections, do you think it's important perhaps to step up genome sequencing in these areas, something that we just talked about, in order to identify whether perhaps the virus mutation is causing certain areas to surge in terms of number of cases?
It's unlikely that virus mutation is causing the surge in this thing. What is more likely is that people have dropped their guard in containing. But genome sequencing, of course, is very welcome. As many viral isolates that we sequence, the better actually that we have handle in understanding what's happening in terms of surveillance and everything. So the more number of genomes that we sequence is better, but the surge that is happening is unlikely because of the certain mutations that have taken place, is more likely because people have actually forgotten maintaining COVID appropriate behavior.
All right. Dr. Preeti, would you agree that you can't, perhaps it's too premature to attribute it to a new strain?
Absolutely, I do agree, but I also agree that we need to step it up. We have a good network of laboratories. We have a capacity, I think the joint capacity, Dr. Mandey would know better, is about 25,000 per day. So we do have a long way to go out and to catch up with it. Right. And I would agree that we can only keep our guard and treat every little isolate, every little area where it is emerging as an independent rise of cases and approach accordingly.
All right. So isolate areas and of course continue to follow COVID appropriate behavior. That's the doctor's advice that's been echoed on the broadcast today. Thank you both very much for sparing your valuable time and being with us on the show. That's all we have time for on this edition of Coronavirus Facts versus Myths. Thanks for tuning in.